Thank you for joining us here today on In Progress. Today we have a guest, Dr. Aaron Pache from Seattle, Washington, here, a wonderful chiropractor that has an amazing journey and amazing story to share with us. Hey, Dr. Pache.
How you doing?
Hey,
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you, Richard. Hello, everybody. How you doing? I'm Dr. Pache from a beautiful sunny day in Seattle, which we don't have often here. So
very cool.
it's nice to meet everybody.
I wanted to ask you a few different things. Here at In Progress, one of the biggest things we're always about is how are we growing? How are we improving? And the stories I love collecting because ultimately I just collect stories wherever I can. Is where did you come from? What were the steps? What was your path like? And from our research, from reading on it, you were a massage therapist and now you're a chiropractor and into the whole spectrum of health. Tell us about that journey. Tell us what's that path look like for you?
Honestly, since I was a child, I just always loved helping people. When I was younger, I knew I always wanted to be a doctor. I knew I always wanted to do something in healthcare. And really, for me, it was how do I get there? And so I started my journey as a massage therapist down in Florida, graduated from a small little school called the Core Institute. I figured, hey, if I can get my foot in the door here, then maybe I can go into PT or maybe I can find my way into physical medicine somehow. But, maybe I can use this as a stepping stone. And massage therapy, my start, as you said earlier, and then it was actually a client of mine when I was living in Atlanta and working at a spa there that really changed my life forever because really she gave me the confidence to take the next step and to listen to what some of my mentors who were other chiropractors were leading me towards. And she had multiple sclerosis, as I think you might have seen on our website. And she went from a wheelchair to walking in about 3 months. And when she had told a patient, I should say a potential client, that, hey, if you're going to go here, you should see him. Without him, I wouldn't be walking. I was very like, whoa,
And this was when you
I
were
don't
still
think
in
I can
massage
take the
therapy?
credit for that. Yeah, this was when I was still a massage therapist working in a spa in Atlanta, just outside of Atlanta, in a little area called Kennesaw. And this woman had been wheelchair bound for about 16 to 18 months, about a year and a half. And her husband was a client of mine who I helped with frozen shoulder. And she was told, hey, this is just where you're at in life. Like, sorry, multiple sclerosis is a debilitating disease and you're not going to get any better. And this is as much as we can do from you. And this is in the medical world. And it was very, very linear, and she wasn't willing to accept that. And being a new grandmother, she was, I want to be able to have a quality of life with my grandchildren. I
That
want to be able to run around in the backyard after them, right? Exactly. Nobody wants to not be able to go and play with their kids or their grandkids. And so she came and saw me, and then I referred her to one of my mentors, and she started seeing Dr. Fernbach in Atlanta. And really, the rest is history because my doctors had been trying to get me to go back to school for a while. I never believed I was smart enough. And there was getting over that hump of, do I have what it takes? Can I get over my fear of academia and push myself that hard? And I was, well, I feel like I was born for this. This is what I've always wanted, and here it is in front of me. So let's go and get the ball rolling and see what happens. And here we are
so
today.
there's part of me that wonders, like, I think MS, I've known a few people who have been ravaged by that disease. And I say ravaged because it's a decades long fight. But I
Yeah.
would never think of saying, hey, go see a massage therapist. Now, I'll be honest, I'm an engineer, I'm AI engineer, I do
Right.
tech science and those things. I don't do medical. And that's the whole point of being here is I want to learn
Yeah.
more. But how do you go,
Right.
the doctors say, hey, you're stuck in a wheelchair, to go, let me go get a massage. How do you make that connection?
I think that connection was made by it was her husband that had seen me first, and he had struggled with frozen shoulder. He had had frozen shoulder for about 6 months, and we got in there and we really broke up. I did a lot of myofascial work because that was my wheelhouse, was myofascial therapy. And when you look at that from the anatomy perspective, or at least from the neurological perspective, the fascia is like the casing over your muscles, right?
Yeah.
It holds the muscles in place. But what I didn't know yet as a massage therapist was that there are neurological links between the fascial tissue and the muscle tissue that are separate from the major nerves that actually move the muscle. So you have this integrated mesh armor, if you will, over all of your muscles, holding them in place. And that's what I was dealing with. And of course, at the time, I'm thinking, oh, this is just a soft tissue that I'm helping to manipulate and get better circulation to, and it's warming the tissue. And that's that. But once I think when my chiropractors that I was working with explained it further, it was no, there's neurological integration here. And that's all chiropractic is neurology. And if you have something multiple sclerosis, which is a neuromusculoskeletal disorder, this is an autoimmune disorder,
Yeah.
really, where the spinal cord starts demyelinating. So basically, if you look at it from an electrical standpoint, if you have this conduction material that prevents that wire from burning up, then what happens? You have this cooling, it's constantly cooling this liquid, right? That's what
Yeah.
the myelin sheath does, is it cools that wire as it's sending a signal so it doesn't burn up like a hot wire. But what happens with multiple sclerosis is there's little tiny holes in that sheath, right? So now the wire is exposed. That's the best way I could really describe it. So
You
that
get
jump
shorts.
from, oh, I should just go get a massage. Yeah, exactly. And that's where the muscles start to twitch, and that's where the claudication or that cramping ends up happening. But when you look at where she made that connection, it was really, she was seeing the massage therapist to help improve the circulation to get the muscle cramping to go away. And then I said, hey, this is all I know how to do, but I work with two amazing doctors here in this area, and I definitely think that they could help. And by going to those chiropractors and really getting the neurology to balance out, that's what took her from that wheelchair for 16 or 18 months to walking, and we're talking walking with no cane, no walker, no nothing, in 3 months.
Wow.
She went from a wheelchair to walking like you and I do, we take for granted every day, in 3 months. And granted, she started out that first 4 weeks, oh, she's walking with a walker now. And then she came in 8 weeks and she's walking with a cane.
So
And then
seeing
she
that
came
kind
in.
seeing that kind of progress, there's got to be a huge mental shift even in your own head. Were you doubting that this would even work?
No, I didn't doubt.
that the chiropractic would work. I didn't know how much I could do as the massage therapist. I just knew that I could help with the cramping by getting those muscles warmed back up, maybe. And that's, again, that was my rudimentary understanding of this at the time. Now that I'm a doctor and I've been through 7 years of school and 5 board exams, I have this way different way of looking at the body. That's why this worked. That makes more sense. You decrease the inflammation at the spinal cord level and at the brain level, and then the rest of the body will follow suit because it has no choice to.
Makes sense.
So, but I think the way we got from one place to the other was she listened to what I had said and she went and saw the chiropractors. And then the chiropractors were like, hey, good job sending her to us. Usually I tell people, if you get to a certain point, there might be a point where there's a point of no return.
Yeah.
Right, with like arthritis or something, in which case you got to have the surgery. And I'm not going to be one of those chiropractors that's so dogmatic that I'm going to say, oh, no, you can break that down. I mean, it would take, could you? It's not impossible. But at the same time, there's a time for intervention too. So, but I think that's what really made the shift there for her.
Chiropractic is not the answer to everything in every situation, but it's a good answer to many
No,
situations.
it's a good answer in many situations and in many cases. And I think that it is often something that is overlooked because of the origins of chiropractic, and also when it comes down to the way that medicine from a bureaucratic standpoint has been run and operated over the last, we'll say, century or longer. it really, really prevented chiropractic from being able to make it into the mainstream, because it was this idea, the whole philosophy behind it was the body heals itself. It just needs no interference.
Yeah, and
It
interference
just
makes
needs to
money.
be free of interference. And interference makes money. And not only that, but if you're selling this idea that the body heals itself, it's not the doctor that heals the patient, it's the patient that heals the patient, then, oh, that's witchcraft. That's snake oil salesman. You're saying that people can heal themselves? Okay, well, what about if they break their bone? Okay, well, if they break their bone and they don't move it, does it heal on its own? It might not heal back perfect, but it will heal.
And even at that, the doctor sets the bone.
And the doctor can set the bone, but they're not doing the actual healing, the fusing of the bone, right? The body does that. And so that's where chiropractic said, hold up a minute. No, you're needed. We're not trying to get in your way of doing anything, but let's be real. The body is what does the healing. You help and facilitate it. You can be a facilitator all you want. And that's where chiropractors in our philosophy would say, no, I don't heal anybody of anything. The body heals itself. I just remove that which is interfering
Makes sense.
with the body healing itself.
So in the journey where you're at now, you can look back and you can see, hey, your perspective has changed. As you just said, hey, you pointed her to the doctors, to the chiropractors, and now you understand why it worked. What other mind shifts, or for lack of a better way, belief changes have you come across in the journey going from massage therapist to now a practicing chiropractor?
Well, one thing that I'll tell you that I was very humbled with my first trimester of school at Parker University was whenever I was asked the question, can you just have a muscle problem? And of course, me being a massage therapist, like, yeah, absolutely, you can just have a muscle problem. But then my teacher goes, okay, what makes the muscle work? And I was like, the muscle spindles contracting, making the muscle fibers contract. And he's like, okay, but what makes that work? Well, your brain. And he was like, yeah. And he goes, okay, your brain. He goes, but is your brain in your arm? And I'm like, no. He goes, well, what's in your arm? I was like, well, the nerve. And he goes, so can you just have a muscle problem? If the nerve is telling the muscle what to do, can you just have a muscle problem? And I was like, holy crap, no, you can't. You can't just have a muscle problem, because the nerve tells the muscle what to do, and the muscle reacts accordingly via depolarization of that nerve telling it what to do. Oh, you can't just have a muscle problem. You can't just have a problem with your liver. Something had to cause that, and your brain picked up on it and said, hey, something's not right here. Alter this, shift this. And the body is very good at adaptation. And the other thing that I think that really changed in my head was that not all adaptation is good adaptation. There is maladaptation.
Yeah, you start limping to one
we
side.
adapt very quickly. Yeah, you start limping to one side, which means now you're atrophying one side, and you're overbuilding, overcompensating on one side, which over time is going to make one side stronger than the other. But you don't think about that. But it was another good concept was whenever a professor of mine said, you ever hear people getting hip replacements, knee replacements? Yeah, right. People who get knee and hip replacements, is it usually on both sides at first, or is it usually one side first?
One side first, and then usually shortly thereafter, the other goes.
Right. But what the number one thing that people say, and I've even seen it in my own practice, is, okay, you had a hip replacement. Yeah, I had my hip replaced 10 years ago. Okay. Well, why? Oh, just getting old.
Good point. Yeah.
Isn't your other hip the same age?
But you're being heavy on one side. You're overworking one side. Yeah. You're misaligned.
Yeah. You're wearing down one side while the other side is getting the break. Because maybe you had the injury to one side and now your other side is overcompensating, but it never stopped. So now your knee is wearing down. Maybe you had a bad ankle fracture, and I can speak to this as a former athlete. I had a Salter-Harris type 2 fracture on my ankle. Apparently learned that was one of the more rare types of fractures. Is that going to affect my knee eventually? Yeah. Is that going to affect my hip eventually? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because I had to shift.
I completely know that shift. I broke my ankle Actually, out of all things, flying out of a golf cart going downhill. When you hit the
Yeah,
brakes on a
that'll
golf
do it.
cart, it can spin around, and if you're not holding on, you're flying.
You're along for the ride, however far that ride is.
I got some great distance. The landing sent me to the hospital.
Yeah?
But the whole point of going, I broke my right ankle. A few years ago, when I was doing a lot more competition style weightlifting, pushing hard, I could feel how much my right side was just being favored, and spent
Mhm.
considerable amount of time training my right leg and right ankle to get my foot in the right position, to get the strength and the stability that even to this day, okay, I could do yoga tree and stand up. I can do it on my left ankle for indefinite amount of time. On my right ankle, it is
Right.
so much harder because I don't have those.
You're wobbling.
Yeah, I lost a lot of those micro muscles or mini muscles or whatever they are, the small
Yeah, those
stabilizers.
finer tuning. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So imagine if you're walking around with that for decades.
Yeah.
Well, it's only a matter of time before that's going to affect the knee and then the hip. So when somebody has to have a hip or a knee replacement, it has nothing to do with age, or else the other one would be failing at the exact same rate. It's about the wear and tear, right? And it's about the rehab. It's about what you're doing. And this is where I'll pause for a minute and say, I had one of my best friends as a doctor of physical therapy. And one of the big things between she and I is because when you look at the sides of the spectrum, they're musculoskeletal, we're neuromusculoskeletal. You throw the neuro in there, there's where the difference lies, is that they are experts in rehab. We're the experts in going, why is the body's functional deficit this? This nerve isn't firing, which causes this muscle to activate. But if you go straight from injury to rehab, well, okay. And the PT says to you, well, this muscle's not firing.
Why?
Okay, why? Why? Why is it not firing? Oh, because you're not firing it. Okay. How do I fire it? Well, you do this. Okay, well, I just did that, and you said my muscle wasn't firing. Why isn't it firing? And that's where the buck stops. Well, you have to understand the neurology to know, hey, this muscle isn't firing, and instead I'm contracting my quad, and I've got nothing going into this portion of my quad, which is also linked to my adductor. Well, why? Well, because if my obturator nerve on the inside of my leg isn't firing my adductor, which is going to stabilize my knee as I'm extending my knee and my hip, then I can fire my tibial nerve all day. If my obturator nerve isn't firing as well, then guess what's happening? All these muscles in the inner part of my thigh
Aren't working.
they're not helping out. There's my fine tuning.
Makes me wonder what you could
Right?
do with my
So
ankle.
Hey, and that's why a lot of chiropractors will only focus on the spine. About 10% of chiropractors out there will focus on the extremities as well. And my mentors, and you'll hear me say that a lot, is I will always give the credit where the credit is due. My mentors are incredible doctors, incredible human beings, and the way they look at the body is how I learned to look at the body. So if I remove the joint noise, if you have a problem with your ankle, could it be coming from your back? Well, that's where the nerve root starts, sure. But if I sit there and adjust the back all day, but the problem is that the talus, which is your hinge joint in your ankle,
Yeah.
right? If that joint's not in the right position either, I can adjust your low back all day. This is going to now be the symptom of this being out of place. So it's not just about adjusting the spine. You got to adjust the ankle, the foot, the actual forefoot, or what we call the equinus joint. So you have to get all that moving in its proper motion again.
So one of the question I want to ask you here,
Yeah.
chiropractic as a whole gets a lot of heat for being the snap, crackle, pop, or the snake oil, or hey, we're going to make you feel better by doing this, this, and this. Answering the complaints or the concerns of the skeptics, their criticisms, what do you actually agree with? You alluded to a few comments that about the chiropractic industry and what it used to be versus
Mm-hmm.
what it's becoming.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me some more. Where are they missing the mark?
I think that and I'll first go with where chiropractors are missing the mark, because there is fault on the side of the doctors. And I think when you don't know how to explain what you're doing in layman's terms, you could talk to me about programs and writing code all day. It's going to go over my head. I'm not going to understand that at all. I could talk about anatomy and stuff like that, but if I don't break it down in a way that you understand, then one, you don't understand what I'm working with or why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I think that a lot of it, criticism on the side of chiropractors, criticizing my own people here, is that criticism from me comes from, if you can't explain why you're doing what you're doing. Like, for example, if I'm doing a muscle test, I was talking with I get adjusted every Wednesday. That's kind of the old way of chiropractic, is let me see what's moving, let me see what's not moving. And what's not moving is the problem. Okay, what if you have hypermobility?
Yeah.
Now we need to tighten something up in order to get this to start functioning and working properly. But how do we do that?
Yeah.
So the criticism on the chiropractic end, again, I'm going to say, is many doctors do not know how to explain why they're doing what they're doing. And I think that pigeonholes a lot of chiropractors who don't have that confidence to get out there and say, hey, you know what? This is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm seeing on you. You're telling me what's wrong with you. Taking a good history is so important. But I think at the end of the day, our biggest issue is not being able to explain to the public the why. Now, on the other end, on the patient end or on the layman end, the people who are the skeptics and the critics, most of them are parroting what they hear. Oh, my doctor said all chiropractors are quacks. Oh, I went to a chiropractor once and this happened. Or, oh, I heard somebody died of a stroke from chiropractic. Well, first off, you're more likely to get hit by lightning and get bitten by a shark in the exact same spot than you are to have a stroke from chiropractic. Now, that's been the big thing, I think, that has held chiropractic back. And when you go into the history of chiropractic and medicine and this battle that happened between chiropractic and medicine, for example, if you were a doctor and you were caught talking to me right now back in the 1940s and 50s, you could lose your license for conduct unbecoming a physician for fraternizing with the enemy. Literally, that is how it was described. And in 1978, there was a lawsuit that didn't finish up until 1992 in the federal Supreme Court, where the American Medical Association was actually found guilty of conspiracy to destroy the chiropractic profession. So there was a lot of politics that went on, and in that, a lot of misinformation, which I do hate that word, but it is a word that fits here. A lot of misinformation, a lot of rumors went around and poisoned the well for chiropractic. But what did medicine do in that case? They said, hey, let's create this physical therapy, more drugs. Let's create an arm of medicine called physical therapy, and we're going to take the neuro research and the musculoskeletal research that the chiropractors are doing, and we're going to use that against them. And again, this is actually all, you can look it all up online. It was actually the, I think it's ICA and the ACA, the International Chiropractic Association and the American Chiropractic Association against the AMA. And that was settled at the federal Supreme Court level in 1992, and the AMA was found guilty of conspiracy to destroy the chiropractic profession and also taking research from us. And all we've ever, I think, wanted to do is just help people. We're not trying to put our hand into some other doctor's cookie jar. I want you to get intervention. If you were my patient, if you needed the intervention, I want you to seek the intervention. A patient the other day I did a test on him. He hurt himself during, not jiu-jitsu, but a Krav Maga. And he came in with a limp. Yeah, he came in with a limp. And I squeezed one ankle and his foot did this, which is good. And I squeezed the other ankle and it went. And I said,
another fun one.
You're not going to be happy with what I got to tell you. I was like, it's looking like you ruptured your Achilles. You didn't fruit roll up, so it doesn't look it's a full-on avulsion tear, but you got a major tear. And of course, he went in and said, hey, they said you were right. I'm going into surgery tomorrow.
Yeah.
I hate that for you, but I'll be here with my class 4 laser to help you heal and to do whatever we can to prevent you from compensating too much. So we'll be able to help you there. So I apologize. I know I'm long-winded. So I hope that answered your question. On the patient side, I think there's been too many rumors, a misunderstanding of what chiropractic really is, which is functional neurology. is neurological optimization.
And we had talked earlier, and you had mentioned that chiropractic is not just adjustments. It's not
Mhm.
just making the alignment. You had mentioned
Yeah.
that there's so much more that you involve now, including nutrition, some psychology, some you have the whole PT side of things. What does that practice now look like to you? How do you see that being
Okay.
used in a beneficial way? And somebody walks in off the street going, I can't move my neck, doc. I'm stuck. Do you go, hey, I just need an adjustment. Can you loosen up my neck?
Well, my answer to them is, yeah, I can do an adjustment, but first let me do some orthopedic tests to get a better understanding, because you can come in and tell me that you hurt your neck, and then my next question is, how did you do this? Right? Oh, there you go. Okay, so you woke up like this. Did you do anything the day before? Did you work out of the gym? Did you look behind you
I lost my pillow in the middle of the night.
to reach back and tell the kids to, hey, pipe down a little bit in the car whenever you were on your long trip the other day? You said you were on a trip or something. The point is, I got to have a history before I can actually do the adjustment. And I think that anybody at my clinic, for example, your first visit with me is not just a 15-minute in and out, it's an hour-long visit. I'm going to do orthopedic tests. I'm going to do neurological tests, in the sense that I'm going to test your strength. I'm going to test your reflexes. I'm going to do the range of motion, because how do I know? Everybody's like, oh, well, and I hear chiropractors, my own, say this all the time. Oh, you're going to adjust anyway. Okay, but more importantly, to know than knowing what to adjust is knowing what not to adjust.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense because so many people I know go, oh, hey, I went to a chiropractor. My back was hurting me and he got me straight and then you stop going? Yeah, I was fine. The pain was away. Well, what caused the pain?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he said my back was out of alignment.
Um,
Okay, I got hit by a freezer door.
yeah, and it stops there, right?
Years ago, I was working in a restaurant and the freezer door swung open and that handle popped me right in the back. And I went, oh, I just knocked my back out of adjustment. I'm like, this feels very weird. And I feel this tingly. And I knew something happened. And then I'd gone to a chiropractor and they're like, yeah, sure
Mm-hmm.
enough, it's right there. Popped it back in. The tingles went away. Came back and just did
Mm-hmm.
follow ups to make sure it stayed in place. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, hey, there was a clear answer to what happened. Now, a few months ago, like I said,
Well, you had a clear mechanism of injury, but you didn't understand maybe why you felt better.
but a few months ago,
You just knew that it went back in place and
yeah.
it felt better.
So when I woke up and I'd say I lost my pillow, but part of me is going old and they say, hey, socks are the most dangerous things to put on. It's not the socks, it's the 30 years of crap you've been doing before you get to that point. So yeah, when I woke up unable to move, I need to find some serious help. And I was able to find some great help locally here in Charleston, and
Oh, you're in Charleston.
it kicked off this journey. Yep, South Carolina. Beautiful, right by the beach.
My dad's from Beaufort, and one of my best friends and one of my groomsmen in my upcoming wedding is a chiropractor, actually in the Charleston area.
Oh, very cool. Well, hey.
Yeah. Dr. Mike Batla, if you want to talk with somebody else, same mentors, started out with the same mentor. And, again, he's one of my best friends. He's one of my colleagues. And I got to say, again, one of those, not only great human being, just great doctor as well. And he has, like myself, this kind of, you can't just focus on the musculoskeletal issue. Let's talk about, hey, are you magnesium deficient? Are you taking too much calcium? Which most people are taking too much calcium and they're not taking any magnesium. And it's like, well, you do know that magnesium repolarizes the nerve and actually makes your muscles relax. That's why magnesium bisglycinate actually helps with muscle cramping. It's not just potassium, which everybody knows about. And potassium is great. It is something that helps to relax muscles, but even more so, if you look at what most people are deficient in, magnesium's the big one. And if you're not taking a magnesium supplement at night, especially once you hit the 30, you said you're in your 30s?
I'm in my 40s. Nice, 43 years old.
Oh, same here. So I'll be 43 next month. So it's one of those.
Got a busy coming up months. A wedding and 43,
Yeah,
man.
43, wedding, and I'm still snowboarding like there's no tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah.
But going back to the nutrition
Yeah.
side, you talking about magnesium deficiency, and everyone says, "Hey, take a calcium supplement or eat a banana for muscle
Yeah.
cramps." What's your take on nutrition as a whole, especially in regards to the neuroscience side?
Okay, that's a great question. My personal belief, if you look at some of the people that I follow, like Dr. Mercola, Dr. Berg, these are just some of the people that I listen to in the nutrition realm. I think that if we really focused as doctors, not just chiropractors, but medical doctors, if we really focused on nutrition in this country, I truly believe 80% of the health problems in this country, and I'm being very real when I'm saying 80%, are due to a lack of nutrition. And I'm going to use the words lack of nutrition because so many people are walking around deficient in things like zinc. Well, what does zinc help neurologically? What does vitamin D help neurologically? Oh, well, there you go. You want help with depression? Zinc and vitamin D right there. Vitamin B12. And most people think, oh, I take a Centrum every day.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you have active vitamins that your body can absorb. Your methylcobalamin, if that's what your B12 says, is methylcobalamin. If your B9 or your folate, right, not folic acid, but folate, 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, your methylated B vitamins are absorbable. Your body goes, hey, I know what to do with that. I need to use that for this reaction. I need to use that for this reaction. If you look at the minerals and the vitamins that catalyze a majority of the reactions in our body, your B vitamins, zinc, magnesium,
Yeah.
and what do we see deficient in almost every population here in the U.S.? Those three things, especially up here in Seattle. Vitamin D, 5 months out of the year, you ain't getting vitamin D, at least not from the sun. So, but I think that when it comes down to nutrition, it's something that we absolutely as doctors have to look at. Because if a patient comes in and they're like, oh man, I'm feeling just beat down, worn out, I'm tired all the dang time, and they're a male over the age of 30, well, of course, my brain's going to go, testosterone issues probably. How do we help testosterone? Zinc. Zinc can help. Yeah, zinc helps testosterone. A lot of your polyphenols will help with testosterone. There's a lot of research coming out on things, pomegranate juice, right? Or research that's really already been done. Pomegranate juice, high amounts of agalactans help Akkermansia bacteria in your gut. So when we balance out your gut microbiome, which your gut microbiome is a separate nervous system.
Good one to know there.
Most people don't realize that. You've got two brains. You've got your brain, and you got your gut brain. And when those two are connecting, there's your brain-body connection. But this one is so affected by what you are or are not eating, what kind of water you're drinking. Are you taking a B vitamin that is a cyanide derivative, cyanocobalamin, B12, the non-active version, the toxic version of B12? Are you taking that one? And then your body goes, hey, I know what this is, but why is cyanide here? I need to break this apart and put this methyl group on top of it. Oh, and this thing said it had, you mean how it's already been flipped or how we should flip it back the other way? How it should be grains at the very bottom. We should have more meat, more fats. Our meats need to be at our proteins need to be at the top. Our fats next to it. Vegetables, carbohydrates at the very, very bottom. I should say, if you invert it, the most amount here, the widest part of the pyramid needs to be your protein and your fats. The next level needs to be your fruits and your vegetables. Because why? Well, your body wants to break down. There's a lot of nutrients there, right? And I always also tell people, when you're getting meats, I live in a place that, and I grew up with my grandparents owning a dairy farm. So
there's a lot of nutrients there.
We had fresh raw milk. We didn't pasteurize our stuff.
Tasty. I miss that.
Yeah, I mean, and let me tell you, you want to talk about great butter? And buttermilk for making good fried chicken, let me tell you something. Make something with that, and you're talking about good food, good soul food. There's a reason why they call it soul food. But when you're eating stuff, grass-fed beef, and a lot of people, even when they look at a piece of steak, they go, ooh, that one's nice and deep and dark red. Yeah, that animal's been stressed. The lighter the meat, the less stress. And I'll bring, again, not to get political into this, but veal is one of those meats that a lot of people have an aversion to because of how it's treated.
Yeah.
If you look at the color of a piece of veal, it is light pink. If you see a steak, a beef steak, that is nice and light, and you've got one that's just deep and dark red next to it, and it says it was cut the same day, that lighter colored piece, that animal was not stressed. That darker piece of meat, those muscles were contracting like it was getting ready to run, right? So even looking at things like that, but grass-fed versus grain-fed beef, you've got a difference in not vitamins, but omegas. Grass-fed beef have more omega-3 and 9. Omega-6 is something you see high. In a completely different taste, right? One tastes like super just beefy, and the other one's almost got this.
Makes sense there.
I don't want to say the word sour, but there's almost this soured kind of, and you can even smell it. You can smell almost this lactic acid, almost you would smell in like a buttermilk, right? That soured smell that you get from that tells you a couple different things. That's probably a grain-fed animal. And the reason why is because they're developing more lactic acid because omega-6 is more inflammatory. Now, there's good inflammation, but when you have your omega-6 up here and omega-3 and 9 down here, well, now you're actually building inflammation in your own body when you eat it. If you have
I gotcha.
here with omega-3 and 9, which are anti-inflammatory, and your omega-6 down here, you have the pro-inflammatory effect that's also balanced out by the anti-inflammatory. So that's where nutrition, I think, especially when it comes to foods, is so important. Get your grass-fed beef, grass-fed, grass-finished. Take your free-range or your pasture-raised chicken.
Makes sense.
Smells different, it tastes different, the tissue texture of it is different even when you touch it, the color of it is different, your eggs, different colors.
Now, that's where I find it different is, you said the color. To me, the pasture chicken, for a better way to put it, always seems so much darker. And I'm a guy who loves the dark meat. And just to see how much more rich the color and the flavor is, I very much enjoy that. And also, I like some of the stronger ones, like the duck and some of those other darker fowls. But
yeah, like pheasant or duck.
A question I have,
Yeah,
in regards to that diet, the food pyramid is actually upside down. Should be flipped over for people that are like, hey, I'm going to try and do this. The keto or the carnivores or I feel like you also have the paleos in there too.
Paleo.
I feel like there's the contrast to the vegans and some of the more high grain people. From your experience, and not, I know it's always so hard to separate opinions and political beliefs from our own experiences, but from what you have seen, the keto, carnivore, paleos, how do you see them reacting versus definitely much better than a standard American diet, but shoot, anything's better than that.
Right. So here's my thing. Dietary fads are dietary fads. And some of them really do hold water. Some of them have a lot of great research out about them. And I think that some of them are really good. Now, I will say a vegetarian who is consuming also things like eggs, that's not a bad thing. Vegans, I can honestly tell you in my experience, having tried being vegan, not taking the politics out of it and focusing on the science alone. I read the book, The China Study. We learned a lot about the China Study in school, which was all about, hey, vegan and vegetarian, vegan and vegetarian, vegan and vegetarian. Okay, we got it. You're pushing vegan and vegetarian, but why? And if everybody's body is different, even from the chemical soup of our blood type, which Dr. D'Adamo, who wrote the Eat Right for Your Genotype diet, and it was actually his father who started that study, and they were doctors, naturopaths actually here in Seattle. They started at Bastyr University. They talk about, hey, when we look at the genotype, the chemical soup of an A blood type, well, an A blood type does well with a primarily vegetarian diet. But then you have Dr. Berg on this side who says, well, actually, keto is the way to go. Okay, well, what does the patient need? And that's where I think it becomes more nuanced. The biggest thing you see in vegans is vitamin B deficiencies. Why? You can get B vitamins from plants, and actually I should say from fruits, because
No.
you get a majority of your vitamins from fruits and a majority of your minerals. If you're on the vegetarian side, a majority of your vitamins are coming from fruits, a majority of your minerals are coming from your vegetables, right? But the problem in this country is that we have such depleted soil because of our farming practices. And again, coming from somebody who grew up with grandparents who owned a multi-100-acre farm in Mississippi, I grew up eating sweet potatoes that we grew, and collard greens and mustard greens and blueberries and carrots and radishes that we grew ourselves. But we also had the dairy farm. Right. And the dairy farm was creating manure that we were then using to feed the soil.
You had your family farm plus the dairy farm. Yeah.
So before the biodynamic thing even was a word to me, I was like, oh, that's farming. But then to learn that that's not how everybody else farmed blew my mind. I was, wait, what do you mean that they have to spray this chemical on this corn? Like, because we grew corn, we grew soy, but we didn't do the genetically modified Monsanto stuff. We had heirloom that we had been growing for years. So this whole idea of, wait, that's why whenever I eat tomatoes at my friend's house, they don't taste like the tomatoes that came out of my grandma's garden. My grandma's garden, those tomatoes are beefy and steak-like, and these ones are all mush on the inside. That's why I didn't like tomatoes growing up, because I'd always eat them elsewhere, and then when I'd try them at my grandmother's house, I was like, oh, this is eating an apple, because the texture is different. They're also not meant to be spliced with salmon DNA either, which, fun fact, your conventional tomato nowadays, your 3 or your 4 label on the PLU code tells you that, hey, this was either genetically engineered or this is just a conventionally farmed tomato. And tomatoes are high on that level of things that are genetically modified. And part of that was the salmon DNA, for example, that they use in that is meant to keep and retain the color on the shelf. So it's made to make it look prettier. But if you look at an heirloom tomato, an heirloom tomato ain't pretty. They're gnarly looking, they're never symmetrical, but that's just how the food industry has gone. And I think that when we look at food and diets, it really depends on the person and the body's needs. But most vegans, I would say, have their own deficiencies. And I see people that are eating keto diets and paleo diets that I would honestly say do far better. I've watched vegans go onto a paleo diet, go, hey, I smelled this one day and I said, hey, I couldn't stand it anymore. I took a bite and I was, oh my God, I ate this piece of steak and I felt I could go run up a mountain without stopping. Well, yeah, that's because your body needed these complex B vitamins and you weren't getting them in these minerals, and your nutrition is there, your iron is there.
And the minerals and, yeah, the nutrition that's there.
So if you ask me without being biased, I would say keto is something that is great. It is not sustainable for a long period of time because you need to have carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are essential. Whether you're getting that from a grain, and do I think we should limit grains? Yeah, like you said, I think the food pyramid lists all the things that you need to have a balanced diet, but they just don't have them in the right order. So keto versus paleo, I'd say paleo. Why? Because you can have some small carbohydrates here, whereas with the carnivore type diets, they're like, nope, no grain, no carbohydrates, no nothing. It's like, okay, well, but you need those because your body, you're shifting to ketosis, which means now your body prefers fat, or is going to start utilizing fat as its primary source of energy versus carbohydrates because you don't have any muscle glycogen. But what's the best thing for recovery? Carbo. Get your carbs.
An interesting thing I came across, each time a energy is consumed, it becomes less and less valuable. That's why we don't eat like lion and tiger, or we generally don't eat predator in general, because they're 2, 3, 4 degrees removed from the actual energy source, which would be the plants build the carbohydrates, build the energies directly from the sun. So the plant has in essence, the highest energy density or energy available for its cycle. And that's why,
Light is its food.
And it's got to make so much of it.
It's photosynthesizing.
But then an herbivore, a animal that is just eating that over and over again, they're able to digest and break that down and turn that first layer of energy into a consumable energy for us. And then we can eat the deer, the sheep, the whatever, beef, pig. Pigs they eat everything, but yeah.
They eat everything. But think about it also this way. What do plants eat? Because plants can't live off of just sunlight alone.
Minerals, water, oxygen, and yeah, you got to have quality soil, the minerals.
And what's in the soil? The breakdown of dead things in the soil. So the plant gets its minerals from dead animals, from dead things, fulvic acid and humeric acid, which actually help the uptake of the rest of the minerals. What does that come from? That's dead animals. That is dead stuff. That is your dead bugs. That is your dead earthworms. That's your earthworm poop, your earthworm castings, as it's called, you'll see in gardens. So plants, in essence, while they photosynthesize energy, their roots must get food themselves from dead animals. So in essence, plants, I heard this interesting theory once, plants are carnivorous. Well, some plants are. No, all plants are. And I was like, wow. When you think about it, yeah, because their minerals come from the breakdown of other animals that other animals like worms are processing. The things that the bacteria in the soil are breaking these things down from other dead things, whether that's dead plant material or dead animal material, and then the plant uses that to create the basis for energy, and then it photosynthesizes, and that's where we get these big fan leaves coming from plants, like your greens, your good dark leafy greens, for example.
Yeah.
But every plant needs minerals, and whenever an animal eats that plant, it gets loaded, it gets gut loaded with those minerals. I had an ex-girlfriend, for example, who loved reptiles, and I used to sit there and watch her feed the mealworms and the roaches that she would feed her reptile or her amphibians. And I'm like, what are you doing that for? And she's like, oh, I'm gut loading them. I'm like, gut loading? And she's like, yeah, they eat this. The bugs eat this. And then whenever the snake eats this, or the large frog eats this, all the nutrients that the bug ate, all those nutrients are packed into that. I was like, that makes sense. And then when you think about it from, okay, this...
But also,
Correct.
a consideration to add in there, each level that goes, that bug used a portion of that energy to move whatever, to even digest its own food. So you start going further and further, you get that. All this to just say there's a point to where vegetables, grains, they have a place. There's also a point to say the proteins. I remember coming across an idea that we can't eat enough grass. We could not physically eat enough grass to sustain us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is what a cow does.
Right. We would be eating all day, every day, and still wouldn't be able to get what we need. Which is exactly, that's what a cow does. That's what a deer does. That's what an elk does. And you look at an elk. Elks are huge. We got them out here. You're living in South Carolina, and I can tell you, I know what the whitetail deer look like. You look at a whitetail deer next to an elk, it looks like a pygmy. That elk is massive. And then you look at a moose and you're like, holy crap, that moose is massive. That moose makes the elk look small. So, but yeah, to your point that these animals eat the things, and then if we eat the animals, then yes, we're absorbing the energy that they absorbed. Because a thing to, and not to get too esoteric here, but let's talk about energy for a minute here, all right? Energy.
Yeah.
First, what's the first law of thermodynamics? First law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It just shifts from potential.
Transfers.
It transfers, right? There's that entropy. It goes from potential energy to kinetic energy. So is energy ever really lost? No. And that goes into the food chain, right? If the earthworm breaks down the dead material from the dead animal, well, guess what? Everything that animal consumed right before it died, as it was decaying, all the minerals in its bone, because guess what? What breaks down those bones? Some bones, fowl, chicken, are very porous. Those break down super easy. That bone meal, earthworms are eating that too. They're breaking that down. The roaches are breaking that down in the soil too. All the bugs and all the critters. And if the plants are eating the poop of that, and then these animals are eating the plants, and then bigger animals eat those animals, whether that's a bird eating a bug, or, a lizard eating a bird, which we see, and then people eat the lizard or the iguana. There's a reason why, and to your point on we don't eat carnivorous animals, so to speak, typically no, but you look at those tribes that do, and when do they usually feast on something like that? Very rarely. Having lived in Africa myself, I've seen what happens when a tribe, if there's a lion or something that is gone rogue, they will hunt that lion down, and they're not going to not eat that lion. They're going to eat every bit of that lion. They're going to use the bones for tools. They're going to use the bones as trophies or as ways of saying, hey, this is part of what made me the warrior in this case. They use every part of it. But when you look at an animal that is that energy dense, you might not need a lot of that in order to feel full. You might not need a lot of bear meat. But let's say if you're living in a harsh, cold environment like Alaska, and bear meat's got lots of grease, lots of fat, and you go and eat that, well, now you have this super energy dense, which is why what did a lot of hunters and trappers back in the day do? They would dry that out, make pemmican with it, or they would make jerky with it, and that was their emergency food source. So we do eat bigger carnivorous things, but typically we don't focus on those because, one, they're way too hard to hunt, and the rule of thumb in nature is if it's too hard to hunt, most predators aren't going to go for it. And if we're at the top of the food chain,
most predators are lazy.
Going fishing
we'll
off the coast, yeah, we're going to go for the easy stuff. We're going to go for the low-hanging fruit. We'll go for the chicken, and we'll go for the deer, and we'll go for the fish. Why? Because I got that. That's easy.
Right there.
It's right there. I'm not going fishing thinking I'm going to go shark fishing. No. If I got to feed me and my family, I'm going shark fishing.
You're going to go salmon fishing when they're all jumping out of the water themselves.
Exactly. You're not going to go say, hey, I'm going to go hunt a whale. No. Most, I would say, because we have killer whales up here, we have orcas up here, which are the largest member of the dolphin family. But I'm not going to go sit there and hunt a dolphin because guess what? It's going to take my bait every time and outsmart me. That's way too hard of an animal to catch. And not only that, that's a hell of a lot more cleaning. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to take the fish that I can just go, cool, good, I'm done. I got my omegas. Throw the rest out for the other animals to have.
So to wrap this up, I'm loving the conversation. I'm loving the direction we're going.
Yeah.
And could probably stay here for another hour or so and keep talking about this. But I have a whole list on family pediatrics and teaching the next generation and those kind of things that we didn't even get to, man. I think it's been a great time. In a kind of like a closing topic here, you have the opportunity to share a message with somebody who is looking to improve themselves, looking to build themselves back up or achieve what they haven't achieved before. What is your encouragement? What direction or North Star, what do you point them to?
If your desire is to improve yourself and improve your life, and it's already been a thought, then you're already on your way to it.
Good point.
Because everything starts out as a thought. Everything starts out as an idea. And if you have this idea of what you want to be and where you want to go, if you're struggling with your health, if you're struggling with your nutrition or with your movement, and you see something that inspires you, let it. If you're afraid of it, good. Because anything worth obtaining is going to take work. And that's okay. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to find power within yourself. And my big thing is I always want to empower my patients that if you want to get healthy, then you will. If you want to get healthy, then you will, because you wouldn't be here otherwise talking to me as my patient. You wouldn't be here talking with me if you didn't want to get healthy, if you didn't want to be out of pain. So you're already taking the steps. So just keep going. Keep going. And if you hit a snag, talk to somebody that does inspire you. I've seen YouTubers that are like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to run every day for this many miles until David Goggins talks to me, until he responds to this. And David Goggins never responds. So he keeps doing it, and he keeps doing it, and he keeps doing it. And the next thing you know, this guy's running with David Goggins. David Goggins doesn't say a word to him while running with him, but David Goggins knows who he is because he's seen him. So if you take a small step, you're already taking a step in the right direction. So my thing that I would say encouragement-wise would be, if you have the idea there, you've already set the ball into motion. Follow up on it. Don't be afraid to follow through, whether that's losing weight, whether that's building muscle, whether that's finding a way to get past a debilitating disease like multiple sclerosis or fibromyalgia or Parkinson's disease. When you see patients that have been told that there's nothing left and they go, no, I'm not going to accept that. And then what do? They inspire me to be a better doctor. They inspire me to try to inspire others. Because all it takes is that first thought. So if you've got that thought in there, if you want to make a change, you've already made the decision. The follow through is what you got to go for. So follow through on it. And remember, one of the things my dad, a South Carolinian, my dad is, as he used to like to say to me all the time, life by the inch is a cinch, life by the yard is hard. It's a lot easier to eat a steak bite by bite as opposed to a steak as a whole. Take small bites. Those small little bites are going to make a huge difference in the end. So be patient.
It's not how big of a bite. It's how many bites you can take and how long you can keep taking another bite.
Exactly.
That persistence pays off.
Persistence wears down resistance, because the biggest barrier in anybody's way is themselves. And that includes me. And we are also our future self is our greatest triumph.
We are our worst critics and our greatest barriers. I thank you very much for your time. I'll take that one too. Future self is our greatest triumph. How do we get a hold of you? If we're in the Seattle area, what do we look for?
Like I said, if you're in the Seattle area, Positive Chiropractic and Wellness Center.com. You can find us on Instagram or on Facebook, Positive Chiropractic and Wellness. And then there's my personal email, Dr. Dr. period. E as in Aaron, M as in Michael, Pache, Dr. E.M. Pache at positivechiropractic.org.
Well, I thank you very much, Dr. Paget. I have had a wonderful time chatting here.
Same. And I would love to do this again.
I definitely will. We still got a whole list of other questions to go on here, man, that I'd love to dive into again. So I thank you for your time.
Well, I look forward to it.
Yeah. Have a good day. And remember to keep growing.
Have a blessed day. Oh, absolutely. Can't stop.